He was a stranger until she screamed "Dad" at 3 a.m. The shocking truth revealed forever. The clock ticked ominously in the dead of night. Shadows danced across the walls of the old house, twisting and contorting into figures that made your heart race. Then, suddenly, a blood-curdling scream pierced the silence. "Dad." It echoed through the corridors, sending shivers down the spine of everyone who heard it. But what was truly shocking? The voice didn't belong to a child, nor did it come from anyone in the house. It was a mystery that pulled the townspeople away from their sleep, their doors flung open, faces painted with shock, wondering who had called and why it was so eerily familiar. Deep in a foggy corner of Maplewood, where the trees whispered secrets and the streets held stories from long ago, a woman named Sarah was waking up to a nightmare. For weeks, she'd been experiencing odd occurrences, things out of place, strange sounds creeping through the night, like whispers from ghosts. But nothing could prepare her for the truth about to unfold. She had taken in a stranger, a man with piercing blue eyes and an unsettling presence. Could he have been a part of her life, locked away in memories she never recalled? As Sarah stumbled out of bed, her mind raced. The room felt colder, like winter had crept inside to curl around her spine. Panic gripped her heart. What if this so-called dad wasn't just a hallucination? What if the man sleeping below her shared a deeper connection that eluded her consciousness? Just then, a heavy thud sounded from the living room, stirring her from her thoughts. She felt her stomach twist. Her hands trembled as she crept towards the door. The floorboards creaked under her weight, each sound amplifying her unease. Who was this man? Why was he in her house? Before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. Just as she pushed open the door, an unfamiliar silhouette caught her eye. The man stood in front of the window, silhouetted against the darkened glass, somehow both distant and deeply familiar. Her heart raced, and she felt lightheaded, as if she might faint. What was he doing here? And what did his presence mean for her and the life she thought she knew? But shadows held their breath. Time hung suspended until he turned around, and the light just barely caught his face. Her breath caught like a stone in her throat. The stranger's lips curved slightly, and for a heartbeat, she could have sworn he looked just like someone from a long-lost dream. Was he telling the truth, or was it all a cruel trick of the mind? And then, as if the universe itself conspired to bring forth the truth, the lights flickered. The lights flickered violently, casting erratic shadows across the room. Each pulse of light brought with it a rush of unsettling clarity, forcing Sarah's mind into overdrive. The stranger's face, momentarily illuminated and then drowned in shadow, seemed to shift between familiarity and terror. As her heart drummed against her chest, a single question screamed inside her. Who was he? "Sarah," he spoke, his voice low and almost soothing, yet it felt like ice slicing through her. "You're awake." She took a step back, the chill in the air biting at her skin. "Who are you?" Her voice was barely a whisper, fear twisting it tight. His expression flickered from a smirk to something serious, as if a mask had slipped momentarily. "You know who I am." He took one slow step toward her. "I'm your father." The word landed heavy in the room, like an anchor dragging her deeper into confusion. "No, that can't be. My father, he died." Memories rushed back, his warm embrace, the scent of old cologne, the day he never came home. Each recollection bore the weight of grief and longing. But this man didn't belong. "Not the man you remember," he said, a sigh escaping his lips. "That part of me is gone." Every nerve in Sarah's body tingled with disbelief. Shadows whispered around her, taunting her with the implications of his words. "You're lying." She shook her head, arms wrapping around her waist as if to hold herself together. "What are you doing in my house?" "Trying to protect you." His voice rose, sharp like shards of glass. "But they're coming. They've always come. Finding you again. You need to listen to me." She felt her breath quicken as an avalanche of anger bubbled to the surface. Finding me? Why would anyone be looking for me? A sudden thought sliced through her confusion the way she heard whispers at night, the feeling of eyes on her. She felt hunted, like prey in a wild world. An eerie silence enveloped the room, only to be shattered by the heavy boom of another thud from downstairs. This one felt different, more pronounced, almost urgent. The stranger's eyes shifted from her, scanning the darkness beyond the door, tension coiling in the air like a taut wire ready to snap. Sarah clenched her fists. What are you hiding from me? Who are they? Not here. He cast a wary glance behind him. We need to go now? Panic surged through her like electricity. Go. You can't just barge into my life and then rush me out like some criminal. His gaze hardened, and for the first time, fear flickered in those unmistakable blue eyes. You have no idea how dangerous this is. I want to let them take you. Before she could respond, the thuds escalated of footsteps, many feet marching closer. There was no time to process, no time to think. It felt like a scene ripped from a horror movie, shadows merging, darkness creeping closer. Just as she turned to bolt toward the door, it burst open. A figure loomed in the threshold, framed by the dim light, banishing any flicker of hope left in Sarah's heart. It was a face she'd never seen, but it carried a menacing promise. What a lovely reunion. The figure hissed, the words dripping with malevolence. Sarah's breath hitched. Nothing felt real anymore. Her world flipped upside down, and in an instant, she was back in the grip of darkness, swept away into chaos. And as the stranger seized her arm, she saw panic reflected in his eyes. We have to escape. But escape? To where? Who could she trust when everything she believed was twisted into a grotesque lie? The shadowy figure stepped forward, grin widening like a predator revealing its teeth. Let the games begin, and just like that, the night deepened, reality shattered, and Sarah knew the truth was as elusive as the very shadows that had swallowed her whole. Sarah's heart raced as the room pulsed with shadows, and menacing laughter echoed off the walls. The stranger's grip tightened on her arm, his desperate urgency palpable. We need to go now, he urged, yanking her toward the hallway. A chill ran down Sarah's spine as she glanced back. The shadowy figure leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed, eyes glinting with cruel amusement. You think you can escape? He taunted, his voice smooth yet laced with malice. You don't even know what is happening here. With a surge of courage, Sarah tore herself from the stranger's hold. Who are you? What do you want? She shouted, but her voice trembled. She could feel the weight of the eyes on her, the oppressive darkness closing in. Listen to me, he pleaded urgently. We don't have time for this. They want to stop. It's not just about my past, it's about your life now. You are in danger. As if to punctuate his statement, another thunderous crash echoed from the living room, and the walls trembled, plaster cracking under the pressure. Sarah's breath caught in her throat. What do you mean? Who are they? But deep down, she felt a dawning realization. She'd sensed it for weeks, the feeling of being watched, the rustle of shadows beyond her windows. They know about you, he replied, urgency bleeding into desperation. They've been tracking you since you were born. We don't have much time. Born? The words slipped from her lips, heavy with implications. What do you mean? The shadowy figure stepped closer, a confident glide cutting through the fear. You're not just anyone, Sarah. You're part of something much bigger than you realize, a legacy, a burden. And they want to stop until they get what they want. Stop, Sarah shouted, clenching her fists. Stop talking in riddles. What is it you want? Her voice cracked, echoing her internal chaos. Silence fell, broken only by the frantic pulse of her heartbeat thrumming in her ears. Come with me. The so-called father stepped closer, almost pleading now. I'll explain everything. But we must go, or we'll both be trapped here. The figure revealed a terrifying grin. Oh, but wouldn't it be fun to see how this all plays out? He mocked. You want answers, dear Sarah? They come at a cost. Sarah's instincts screamed to kick, to bolt, to escape. But the instinct to know even just a sliver of the truth was relentless. Would that shadow have the answers? No, she said, shaking her head fiercely. I refuse to be a pawn in your game. Just then, the walls vibrated again, a foreboding wind breaching through the room. The lights flickered, a final desperate attempt to fight against the encroaching darkness. Do you hear that? The father hissed, panic clawing at his face. They're here. As if conjured by their words, a loud crash resonated from the hallway, and a thin veil of shadow spilled into the room. It wriggled, twisting and curling like smoke alive, predatory. In that moment, fear wrapped around Sarah, and for the first time, it felt as if every instinct was screaming at her to run. But run where? Go. The father yelled, propelling her forward. I'll hold them off. Sarah froze, torn between the need to flee and the instinct to help. No. He pushed her again. It's the only way to save us both. Trust me. With a heartbeat full of desperation and doubt, she faced the looming darkness. Adrenaline surged, compelling her to move. She sprinted past him, into the unknown, the shadows snapping at her heels like hungry wolves. But the figure's laughter chased her down the hall, sending ripples of fear crashing through her. Once outside, Sarah stumbled into the cold night, a myriad of stars overhead. Her heart pounded in her chest, and the world felt huge and empty. But behind her, the battle raged, and the echoes of betrayal whispered in her ears. Find her, the shadow hissed behind her, a terrible promise in its tone. We will not stop. In that instant, she knew. This was no ordinary pursuit. It was a reckoning, a chase steeped in shadows thicker than night. And now, Sarah was trapped in the center of it all. Where would she go? Who could she trust? And what exactly was it that made her worth finding? The uncertainty loomed larger than life. And as she ran, she grasped only one chilling thought. The night was only beginning, and the truth would unfurl in ways she could never imagine. The wind howled through the trees, sending chills racing down Sarah's spine as she sprinted away from the house. Each step felt like a gamble, the cold earth beneath her feet a stark reminder that every moment brought her closer to the darkness chasing her. But she wouldn't stop. She didn't know what awaited her in the shadows, but she felt it closing in, a malevolent presence that hungered for her, twisting the very air around her. Keep moving, she whispered to herself, knowing she had to put distance between her and whatever horrors lay behind her. Her breath came out in quick bursts, each one fueling the panic that gripped her heart. What did he mean by a legacy? Why was she being hunted? The questions spun through her mind, relentless and maddening. The headlights of a car swerved into her path, temporarily blinding her. She quickly shielded her eyes with her arm, shadows clawing against the glare. Just as she felt a flicker of hope at the sight of salvation, the figure stepped out, casting a long shadow across the pavement. Hey, are you all right? A voice called, shaky yet urgent. It was a woman, her eyes wide with concern. Sarah's instincts screamed at her to run, but the desperation bubbled up inside her. Help, she cried, her voice barely rising above the wind. The woman hesitated, eyeing Sarah's disheveled state. Get in. I can't leave you out here. Before the shadows could catch up, Sarah dove into the passenger seat. Relief washed over her as the door slammed shut, but it was short-lived. Drive, she gasped. Just drive. The woman didn't question her, slamming the gear into drive. The tires screeched against the asphalt, and they sped off into the night. The air turned heavy with tension. What is going on? The woman asked, glancing nervously over at Sarah. I don't know, Sarah exclaimed, her voice trembling. But they're after me. I just ran from someone. The driver frowned, uncertainty flickering in her eyes. Who? Someone who claims to be my father, or something worse? And then there's this shadow thing, it's like they know everything about me. Before the woman could respond, a shadowy shape darted along the side of the road. It seemed to flicker in and out of view, moving with a speed that made Sarah's skin crawl. There, she shouted, pointing. Did you see that? The woman squinted into the darkness, but all she saw were tree lines and flickers of light. I didn't see anything. You're safe now. Safe, Sarah repeated, the word tasting bitter in her mouth. I don't feel safe. Suddenly, the headlights dimmed, as if they were losing power. Panic surged within Sarah. No, don't stop. The car chugged, sputtering as they glided to a halt. Come on, the woman pleaded, her fingers dancing over the steering wheel. It's the battery. I can't get out. Sarah screamed, throwing open the door. They had to move. The looming threat felt closer, electric anticipation filling the air. As they scrambled out, Sarah spun around, eyes scanning the night desperately. The shadows slithered closer, casting an eerie veil over the landscape. alive and pulsing with hunger. We need to hide. The woman nodded, fear etched on her face. In the woods. It's south, the only place. They dashed toward the trees, plunging into the dark embrace of the forest, branches clawing at their clothes. As they plunged deeper into the thicket, fear twisted gut deep in Sarah. What were they running from? Where are we going? The woman gasped, breathless. I don't know. Just keep moving. The sounds of their heavy footsteps echoed against ancient roots, blending with the chilling whispers floating through the air, a dreadful reminder that they were not alone. Just as they halted, a distant howl pierced the night, cutting through the tension like glass. This wasn't just a chase. It was a hunt. The realization gripped Sarah. She could feel the danger in every heartbeat, a primal instinct urging her to survive. But there was another feeling too, something familiar lurking just behind the fear, an unsettling sense that she had been prepared for this. We're not going to make it, are we? The woman whispered, her eyes wide with terror. And in that moment, Sarah realized the shadows were not just hunting her. They were closing in on something she had yet to discover about herself. What legacy awaited her in those shadows? The truth felt closer than ever, but so was the darkness. And just as they turned to find a route deeper into the forest, the shadows shifted, coalescing into a shape that held the answers to the questions Sarah had yet to ask. The forest loomed overhead, dark and twisted, branches tangled like skeletal fingers reaching for them. Sarah's heart thundered in her chest, every pulse a reminder of the danger nipping at their heels. The woman beside her, clad in a worn jacket, looked like she was fighting her own fears, but Sarah didn't have time to check her joyless expression. Not now, not ever. Keep moving, Sarah urged, her voice sharp like splintered wood cutting through the suffocating silence. They plowed deeper into the shadows, the darkness hugging them close as they stumbled over roots and leaves, their breath matching the frantic rhythm of their feet. Unseen eyes were upon them, lurking just beyond the trees, and every scrape of a twig made Sarah jump like a struck match. Why are they after you? The woman gasped, barely able to keep pace. I don't know. My dad said there's something in me, something worth taking. The words slipped from Sarah, her voice trembling. The truth was as bewildering as the shadows, a thick fog of dread covering her thoughts. Your dad? The woman hesitated, confusion furrowing her brow. You mean he's alive? Yes. Sarah barked, her nerves frayed. But he's not my dad, not like I thought. He said I have a legacy, something dangerous. A low growl vibrated through the air. The sound curled around them, a predator's whisper promising dread, and Sarah felt the ground drop from under her. They needed to find shelter somewhere that would take them away from the gnashing teeth of whatever hunted them. Suddenly, an idea struck Sarah. Those ruins we saw earlier, she said, remembering the decrepit building that peered through the trees like a forgotten ghost. We can hide there. The woman didn't respond, but rushed forward, trusting in Sarah's instincts. The dark silhouettes of the woods began to tremble, the shadows convulsing like a live creature. Panic igniting within her, Sarah quickened her step, pulling the woman along. Sprinting toward the ruins, they finally broke through the dense underbrush, skidding to a halt. The structure, long abandoned, loomed before them, its crumbling stone like the jaws of a great beast waiting to swallow them whole. We can't stay here, the woman protested, puffing out her words like smoke. It feels wrong. Before Sarah could argue, the shadows pulsed once more, a mass swirling behind them, hungry and ravenous. In, now, she screamed. They ducked into the darkened doorway, the air heavy with the scent of mildew and despair. It took moments for their eyes to adjust, but the darkness enveloping them was thicker than the forest outside. Sarah felt her skin prickle with foreboding, and it took all her will to fight the urge to run. Why did you call him a stranger? The woman asked, holding her breath as they pressed against the wall, hearts thumping like war drums. Because he said I'd never understand him unless I faced what was coming. And now, Sarah's throat tightened. I feel like he's never been a stranger at all. It's like parts of me remember him. A chill ran up her spine. The shadows seemed to listen, ready to drink in every word. But then, from somewhere deep in the darkness, a voice crept out, whispering her name. Sarah, it cooed, throaty and familiar, echoing with a twisted affection, her breath caught in her throat, an icy grip squeezing her chest. It knows me, she gasped, the enormity of it slamming into her. The woman clenched Sarah's arm, fear stripping across her features. We need to go? But before they could make a move, the shadow coalesced into a figure, rippling and flickering like shadows on a fever dream. Come to me, daughter, the voice beckoned, coaxing warmth into the chill of the ruins. It was the voice of her father, the one she didn't truly know but could feel within her bones. Don't listen, the woman cried, desperate. Just as that dark figure reached out, ready to pull Sarah into his depths, a new realization flooded her. The legacy wasn't just about survival. It was about accepting who she truly was. For in the heart of fear, she sensed power, and she wasn't ready to surrender. But did she have the strength to confront it? With the figure closing in, Sarah steeled herself, ready to face the tangled threads of her lineage. Before she could move, the shadows surged forward, and the last thing she saw was his eyes, deep and consuming, reminiscent of every dark corner of her soul as she whispered, I'm not afraid, but was it boldness or sheer desperation that filled her? And from the shadows emerged truths that would shatter her world forever. A surge of darkness swept through the room, enveloping Sarah as if the very air had a weight to it. The moment her father's voice wrapped around her, every instinct screamed at her to flee. But something deeper, a buried ember of connection, pulled her closer. What are you? She whispered, her voice barely making it through her tight throat, fighting against the fear that tangled in her thoughts. Your protector, your legacy, he replied, words crashing around her like thunder, full of resonance and promise wrapped in a cloak of menace. Join me. Together, we can embrace our destiny. The woman beside her trembled, her eyes darting nervously. Don't listen, Sarah? This isn't right. Your real father wouldn't want this, whatever this is. Enough. The shadow boomed, and the very walls seemed to vibrate in response. You know nothing. You must choose. Choose. The word hammered in Sarah's mind, triggering vivid flashes of memories she couldn't quite grasp. Glimpses of her childhood, of laughter and moments shared, but those felt incorrect, tainted by the shadows that now clung to her like a second skin. Sarah, focus. The woman shouted, yanking her attention back. Remember who you are. You're not alone. The determination in her voice cut through the pitch darkness as stark and bright as fire. Sarah shook her head, disoriented. But he's my father. No, he's a monster. This isn't your legacy. It's a prison he wants to keep you in, the woman pressed, her urgency a lifeline in the rising turmoil. In that instant, the shadows flickered, and Sarah caught a glimpse of the figure's true form, twisted and grotesque. What had felt warm now choked her with dread. This was not the comfort of a parent. It was manipulation, a devouring hunger disguised as affection. Father, she said, tasting the word on her tongue. It came out almost like a plea, but sorrow twisted in her chest. You're not who I thought you were. The shadows recoiled, their grip tightening, swirling angrily as if her words lashed out against their very existence. You dare reject me? The voice dropped an octave, morphed into something full of rage, cross-hatched with disappointment. Get out of my head, Sarah screamed, the sound piercing through the confines of the darkness, igniting a flame of rebellion in her heart. She could feel the energy shift, the very essence of the ruins vibrating in response to her anger. It was fear, no doubt. It was the primal urge to escape. But it was also empowerment, her own identity, pushing against the terror, carving its space where doubt once resided. Together, we are strong, the figure growled, looming closer, shadows twitching like vipers ready to strike. No. Sarah's voice erupted again, echoing through the ruin, intense and powerful. I am more than a bloodline. With that declaration, a blinding light exploded from her very being, cascading through the darkness like the dawn breaking after a storm. It flowed toward the figure, illuminating the space around them, pushing back the shadows, chasing them into the corners. But in that light, in that moment of clarity, something else emerged, lurking at the edges, an unsettling truth clicking into place. What is this? The shadow shrieked, grappling with the force she wielded. Its confusion deepened the shadows, turning fear into panic. Not your daughter, Sarah whispered, her breath steadying with newfound strength. You don't control me. Yet, just as she thought she was reclaiming herself, Another voice broke through the veil, a haunting laughter echoing from deep within the shadows, cold as winter's chill. You think this is over? Heart pounding, Sarah steadied her breath. The echo felt familiar, ringing a bell of uncertainty and fear that she had never invested fully in her father's promises. With a surge of urgency, she felt the undeniable need to escape this terrible space. They needed to run, to find answers before this cycle consumed them both. The light flickered, then extinguished. Let us go, she yelled, grabbing the woman's arm again. Pulling her toward the entrance as they plunged back into the forest, breathless and shaken. A chilling whisper taunted from the ruins behind them. I will find you, and you will understand. Her blood ran cold. Had they truly escaped? And as the night closed in around them, shadows flickering between the trees, Sarah realized that the danger wasn't just behind. It was tangled inside her too. What else was her father hiding? Was she strong enough to discover it? All she knew was the hunt was far from over. Breathless, Sarah stumbled through the thick underbrush, her heart hammering in her chest like a caged bird desperate to escape. The moon hung high above, casting an eerie glow that seemed to pulse with her anxiety. Behind her, the ruins loomed like a related nightmare clinging to the edge of reality, shadows writhing at the very threshold of her terror. The woman, her ally in this dark fight, kept pace beside her, fear etched on her face. Where are we going? The woman gasped, gasping for breath, glancing over her shoulder as if expecting the shadows to sweep down upon them at any moment. Anywhere but there, Sarah hissed, her pulse racing. The momentary light had felt liberating, yet the deeper truth lingered still, like a ghost refusing to let her go. She couldn't shake the feeling that her father's presence would follow her like an unshakable curse. They emerged into a clearing, tall trees on all sides framing their frantic escape. But the tranquility of the forest was a false promise. Fear licked at the edges of her mind, reminding her that tranquility was fleeting. Sarah the woman placed a steadying hand on her shoulder. We need to hide. We can't let him track us again. I know, Sarah snapped, fighting back rising anger. It wasn't the woman's fault. They were in this chaos together. But the weight of uncertainty pressed down on her, swirling with questions. He knows me. He knows where I am. Then we need to find out what he really wants, the woman said, her eyes fierce with determination. You need to understand the truth about your family, about you. Right? Sarah replied, frustration boiling beneath her skin. Because it's just a matter of learning the family business, right? Who needs a normal life? Look, her companion said, biting back her own anxiety. Find shelter for now. We're safe here, for the moment. We have to gather our thoughts. We need a plan. Taking a deep breath, Sarah scanned the forest. She could almost feel the shadows shifting among the trees, waiting to draw her back in. Okay, but I need answers. Not just for me, for us. Underneath the trees, a winding trail revealed itself, beckoning with an unsettling familiarity. She hesitated before stepping onto it, but the path felt like destiny's thread pulling her forward. Together, they moved cautiously along the trail, the air thick with tension as they took their first steps into the winding path. Sarah couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. The shadows around them whispered, laughing delicately in her mind, as if they held a secret far too grave to ignore. Wait, she murmured, pausing mid-step. Did you hear that? What? The woman squinted, trying to pierce the veil of darkness enveloping them. There's something or someone ahead. Sarah's voice trembled slightly, a knot forming in her stomach. Was it danger? Or was it salvation? Then, out of the dimness, a figure materialized. It was vague at first, just a silhouette emerging from the heavy shadows, but it transformed slowly into a recognizable form. The figure stepped into the moonlight, and Sarah's breath caught in her throat. Dad! The whisper slipped through her lips like a declaration, filled with confusion and hollow hope. Sarah's voice was like electric shock, crowding her thoughts with memories she struggled to dissect. Was it love? Was it manipulation? The woman beside her gasped. No, it can't be, but Sarah felt pulled, emotions battling fiercely beneath her skin. What was the truth? What was she truly facing? With every heartbeat, the air crackled with tension. Her father's familiar presence ignited an internal war. She had fought to put distance between them. Yet now, he stood there, a paradox of comfort and threat, an anchor in her storm. And just as she opened her mouth to speak to demand answers, his expression morphed into something else. A shadow of rage flickered, a cosmic storm brewing in his eyes. "Come home," he commanded, a darkness seeping into his tone as its power surged in the air between them, blurring the line of familial affection. "Or what?" Sarah shot back, every instinct telling her to resist. "Or you want tea like the consequences." His words sliced through the silence, a promise wrapped in peril. Sarah's gut twisted. Did she dare to believe him? As she faced him, every fiber of her being screamed for escape, for answers, for the truth lurking just beyond the veil of midnight. In that moment, it didn't just seem like the hunt was on. It felt like the hunt had begun anew. And there, standing beneath the oppressive weight of the forest, Sarah realized that understanding her own legacy could mean unraveling a darkness she couldn't possibly fathom. Would she dive deeper, confronting a fate she could not yet comprehend? The spectral laughter flared once more in the distance, telling her they were not alone in this relentless chase. What would she discover? What truths waited in the shadows? Sarah's heart raced, drumming in her ears as she stared at the man who claimed to be her father. Fear tangled with confusion, and she fought to ground herself, her breath coming faster. He looked like her, but there was something chilling about his gaze, a storm swelling behind his familiar features. "Dad," she breathed, as if the word could break the grim tension surrounding them. "We can talk about this later," her companion urged, sensing the shifting weight in the air. But Sarah was already stepping forward, compelled by instinct and much deeper ties. "Get back, Sarah," the woman pleaded, her voice urgent, but half a heartbeat too late. "Why should I trust you?" she demanded, turning to her father. "After everything." With those words, his expression hardened, a veil of fury slipping over his gentle facade. "You think you can run from who you are? From me? You can't escape your blood." "Blood?" she echoed, bewildered. What does that even mean? The forest felt alive around them, branches creaking and leaves whispering secrets. Shadows danced, wild and chaotic. Her father's form cast a long shadow, stretching like the very ties woven into her past. "Sarah, listen," he barked, every ounce of his fury pulling her into a magnetic pull. "There are things you don't understand about our family, about the power you possess." "Power?" she scoffed, disbelieving. "What power? You mean the power to be hunted?" His lips twisted, something sinister lurking beneath the surface. "There are people who want what we have. Our legacy is a weapon, and they will stop at nothing to take it." "What kind of legacy?" Her pulse quickened with every word, the raw emotions threatening to consume her whole. "What are you not telling me?" At that moment, a rustling sound snapped through the air. They all turned sharply, eyes narrowing into the darkness beyond. It was as if the tension crackled and snapped like a live wire. Then he appeared. A second figure surged forth from the shadows, silver eyes locked on Sarah, as if he could see right through her. She felt herself go cold. Instinctively, she moved closer to her companion, but she was rooted in fear, as if her feet were planted by the roots of that ancient forest. Philip, the word felt like venom on her tongue. This was the man whom she'd only seen in fleeting nightmares. "Looks like someone found you, little bird," he said, his voice smooth but laced with malice. "Stay back," Sarah yelled, stepping between her father and this looming figure, confusion mingling with the rising panic. The woman beside her readied herself, hands clenched, refusing to allow the darkness to swallow them whole. "Leave her alone," her father commanded, deep authority lacing his tone, but Philip laughed low and patronizing. "You think you can protect her from this?" Philip gestured carelessly to the forest surrounding them. "The truth is, she's already marked. There's nowhere to hide, and you'll be powerless against what's coming." "Enough. I want to let you take her." The desperate plea carried strength that only ignited Philip's grin wider. "Take her? Oh no. She's far too valuable for that. It's time she learns of her potential." His eyes flickered dangerously. "What fun would it be to just snatch her away? We have much more in store for you, Sarah." Her heart thundered in her chest, a visceral clash of loyalty and curiosity battling within her. The echoes of the past were always whispering, and now, the shadows were turning into threats, blending memories with reality. "Why do you want me?" she whispered, voicing the dread that coursed through her veins. Philip stepped closer, a predator assessing its prey, each movement deliberate and menacing. Because, darling, you are the key. The true potential lies within you, and your father has kept it from you. I don't want anything to do with this. The sky above them crackled with energy, and a low rumble sounded, like a storm on the horizon. Denial only leads to pain, Sarah, her father said, voice softer, yet tinged with urgency. This is the only way to protect you. Protect? She spat, feeling the weight of the world pressing down on her. All I see is danger. Listen to me, he pleaded, stepping forward, but she felt more lost than ever. Just then, she caught the hint of movement at the edges of the clearing. A faceless shadow darted closer, slipping in and out of view, growing more defined with every heartbeat. Who else was lurking in the darkness? Sarah, run! The woman shouted as the shadow loomed, monstrous and terrifying. Without thinking, she turned, adrenaline surging, and sprinted down the only path that remained deeper into the forest, away from her father, away from Philip, her heart hammering against the cold wind that lashed at her now, obscuring her senses. But as she ran, a new reality dawned upon her. She was not just running from men, she was running from her own legacy. What awaited her at the heart of this twisting maze? Would she find answers, or only unravel more questions about who she truly was? Branches whipped at Sarah's face as she plunged deeper into the forest. The darkened trees loomed around her like sentinels, closing in, but she couldn't stop to think. Panic fueled her flight, a wild need to escape the rising tide of confusion and dread. Her father's voice echoed in her mind, a vague urging amidst the chaos. You can't escape your blood. What did that even mean? The shadows seemed to swell around her as she ran, insects buzzing in frantic symphony, the ground thick with damp leaves that crunched underfoot, erupting like violent whispers at her disturbance. Suddenly, the ground dipped, and she stumbled, falling hard against the earth. The cold seeped through her clothes and bit at her skin. Breathless, she glanced back, half expecting the dark figures to be on her heels. But there was only quiet now, a heavy, eerie stillness. Her heart pounded in her chest, the rhythm loud enough to drown out every other sound. Sarah! A voice called, piercing through the shadows. It was the woman, the only person who had stood beside her against Philip. Where are you? She scrambled to her feet, shaking dirt and leaves off, and called back. I'm here. Almost instantly, the woman burst into view, panic etched across her face like a coiled spring ready to snap. We need to move. It's not safe here. Why? What is going on? No time. The woman grabbed Sarah's arm, urgency radiating from her. They can track your energy. We need to get to a safe place, now? Used to being on her own, that feeling of independence was crushed by the weight of something far more sinister, creeping like fog into her consciousness. What are they? She gasped, every word laced with fear. Hunters. There's a whole faction devoted to capturing people like us. They want what you possess. What I possess. The pieces of the puzzle were scattered, but they were starting to align with horrifying clarity. You mean this power? Yes. You're special, Sarah. You're more than you think. But if they catch you, they'll use you for their own gain. A sudden rustling erupted in the underbrush, shattering their moment of tenuous clarity. Sarah's breath hitched as another shadow approached, this one lighter than the rest, but just as foreboding. The woman tensed, scanning their surroundings. Stay behind me, she instructed, slowly inching forward. Her expression transformed a blend of steel and fragility, ready to confront whatever horror awaited. Then, the shadow lunged into the clearing, forming into a tall figure that emerged from the darkness. He had a strikingly pale complexion, with midnight black hair that seemed to absorb the light around him. It was then he spoke, the voice soft yet commanding. What a beautiful mess we have here. Sarah's pulse quickened. It was Philip's brother, she realized. She had seen him in her nightmares, the threads of fear bundling tightly as knots in her stomach. Stay back, she shouted, stepping further behind the woman, who had assumed a defensive stance. Let her go, the woman demanded, edgy confidence wrapping around her fear. Philip's brother chuckled softly, dangerous amusement glimmering in his eyes. You think you can protect her? He glanced back at Sarah, his expression shifting. You need to understand something, little bird. The truth will find you, no matter how far you run. Why are you doing this? Sarah shouted back, her voice almost a plea now. You could stop this. He tilted his head, considering her words. We don't choose our fates, dear sister. But the choice here isn't mine, it's yours. His presence felt dark and suffocating, a void threatening to swallow her whole. Sarah's breath caught in her throat, the unsettling chill of realization sinking deeper. Run, the woman urged, suddenly breaking the standoff. Without a second thought, Sarah sprinted again, heart hammering, the weight of the past chasing after her. What lay ahead? Each step drew her deeper into the unknown, where the forest might reveal secrets darker than the shadows that hung between the trees. But even as they fled, a chilling thought gripped her. Who could she really trust in this twisted web of legacy, power, and betrayal? The answers felt just beyond her reach, merely an echo in the dark. Would she ever uncover the truth, or would she be lost forever? The forest closed in around Sarah, every branch and leaf a reminder of the danger lurking just beyond the veil of the trees. She ran, heart pounding, driven by instinct and sheer desperation. Around her, the shadows seemed to pulse with a life of their own, whispering secrets and threats that buried deep within her mind. Over here, a surge of relief washed over her as she spotted a narrow path leading away from the heavy foliage. She darted toward it, the woman at her side matching her desperate pace. Keep moving. Don't look back. The urgency in her companion's voice spurred Sarah on, but memories of her father, of Philip, and the twisted promises of lineage clung heavily to her heart. I can't keep running forever, she gasped, her breath coming in hard bursts. I need to know the truth. The woman glanced over her shoulder, eyes wide with fear. We'll find it. Just trust me. But trust felt like a luxury right now, one she couldn't afford. The weight of uncertainty bore down on her. What was the truth? What was real? The shadows danced closer, coiling around her like smoke. An idea flickered in her mind. She couldn't just run from her past. She had to confront it as they slipped through the trees. Sarah turned to her companion, steely resolve hardening her voice. We're going back. I need to face him. Him and whatever secrets are buried there. The woman's expression turned troubled. You realize he is dangerous. Beyond what we've seen. Maybe, but there is something inside of me. I can't hide any longer. A moment passed heavy with silence. Sarah could feel the shadows closing in, their restless energy pressing around them like a storm. Finally, the woman gave a resolute nod. If that is what you want, then I'll support you. But we have to be ready. He won't just let you walk away. With a determined stride, they retraced their steps toward the ruins, Sarah's heart hammering a chaotic rhythm in her chest. As they neared the stone structure, a sensation of foreboding gripped her. But she had to know. She needed to face who she was meant to be even if it terrified her. Inside the ruins, the echoes of their footsteps bounced across the cracked walls, shadows pooling menacingly in the corners. Father, she called, her voice cutting through the stillness. I'm here. The air thickened, tension crackling like static, and then, from the darkness, the figure coalesced, stepping forward from the shadows. Her father's visage emerged, a mix of paternal warmth and something darker lurking beneath. Sarah, he intoned, his voice resonating, both full of affection and a chilling command. Stop, she interrupted, raising her hands. I don't want your lies anymore. I want the truth. His expression darkened, rage flickering in his blue eyes. You think you understand? You think you can just walk away from what you are? In some twisted sense, you're right. Sarah shouted back, her anger rising. But I'm more than just your blood. I refuse to be part of something I don't believe in. Then you're a fool. He stepped closer, shadows spilling around him, threatening to engulf her. I will do what it takes to keep you safe. No, she countered, a surge of power igniting inside her. You're not protecting me. You're trying to control me. As those words pierced the oppressive darkness, the energy shifted. A pulse of light emanated from Sarah, her determination blazing like fire, bright against the darkness that threatened to overtake her. What is this? He hissed, eyes wide with confusion and disbelief. Maybe it's the legacy you never wanted to see, she declared, stance steady, her voice echoing against the ancient stones. I am not a puppet, and I refuse to play your game. With that, the light from within swelled, rippling outwards, pushing back the shadows, illuminating the truth in its rawest form. Her memories surged like a tide, every moment of love, loss, and pain coalescing into the clarity of who she was meant to be. As the darkness thrashed against the light, Sarah felt the weight of fear she carried begin to dissipate. She turned to her companion beside her, grounding her in a shared purpose. "We will face this together." With a fierce glare, Sarah took a step forward, her spirit entwined with that of her companion. "This is not just about you anymore. This is about me reclaiming my life." The rage in her father's face morphed to confusion, fear edging into his features. "No, you don't understand." But Sarah was resolute. "No, father, you don't understand. I don't need to follow your path to be strong. I am strong enough to carve my own." As the last of the shadows receded before her inner light, Sarah felt a cascade of energy fracturing the air around her, breaking the ties of manipulation that had kept her bound. There, in that moment of clarity and defiance, she knew the legacy she carried wasn't a curse. It was her birthright, but how she wielded it would be hers to decide. "Let us make sure they never find you again," the woman whispered beside her, a fierce glint in her eyes. Together, they turned towards the darkness, ready to confront whatever came next. Together, Sarah affirmed, her voice unwavering. As the last threads of their shared torment fell away, it was no longer just a fight to survive. It was the beginning of a journey she would shape on her own terms. And emerging from the shadows, they stepped into the light of a new dawn. The echo of her father's twisted promises lingered behind them, but Sarah knew now that she would never again be a pawn in his game. She was the master of her fate, and the shadows would learn to fear her fire. Before we say goodbye, I need you to take action. Subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories that dive even deeper into the shadows of this alluring saga. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and show your support. Every click counts. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this wild ending. I want to hear what you think. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to check out this conclusion. Your support makes a difference, so let us keep this story rolling.